Hi, welcome at the Orange Talks, a series of podcasts of Dutch. My name is Peggy, and I'm today again with my colleague Karin.
Hi, Peggy.
Nice to see you again.
Great to be here.
We're again in the studio, and we're going to talk again about COP30 and beyond. Because if you want to stay COP connected, you want to have the first row seat, then obviously you need to stay at Dutchem, right?
For sure. And today we have a very special guest. She has been a sustainability leader for over 20 years. She has gone through very important companies like McKinsey and Natura. She is a professor and a writer. And today she is a sustainability leader at a top Dutch company, KPMG. Welcome to the Orange Talks, Nelmara Arbex.
Thank you, Carrie. Thanks to Peggy for the invitation.
Super nice to have you with us, Nelmara, because indeed, as already Karin introduced, passionate about sustainability, top professional as well. So really good to have you with us to have this conversation. You wrote something recently. I love to challenge I love to have the challenges in the world or to change the world. What do you mean exactly with this? Because we all would like to change the world, right, Nelmara?
Yeah. This is a very good question because this connects to so many things I do and I believe we should all be doing, actually. I think it's in my LinkedIn profile. And the reason I put it there is because normally we introduce ourselves through what we have done, the Natura role, McKinsey, beginning of my career after the academic world. But behind all these moves, and then I went to the GRI to be based in Amsterdam, also to live in the Netherlands for many, many years, and came back to Brazil with my company. But there is a reason why we do all these things. And I really like to put that in my profile in LinkedIn to say I'm doing all that because not only because I have fun changing all these jobs and living many different places, but because there is a change in the world that I want to see. And I want to find allies to help me doing that. I think this is the reason why that sentence is there. And what I mean about when I say change the world is because I do believe that we are in a very special moment in human history. We are in a moment where our capitalistic system has is so big that is a planetary system, super interconnected. We are all interdependent. And now we're going to have to solve problems together.
Yeah.
And I think this is very special. So
is this a bit the new element that before everybody was trying to solve a little bit the problems on their own, and that we now need to force a little bit to solve these problems because we cannot solve it alone anymore?
Yeah.
And maybe we have to solve it indeed together?
Yeah, I think so. I think at least until maybe 2-3 decades ago, we had much more this attitude that we could solve certain problems in a regional scale, national scale. And this is true. There are some problems we can and we should. But the big problems, like, what we are having to face with climate change or poverty or peace or human rights, many of them nowadays, they are complex. And they expose the fact that, in fact, we are interconnected. There is no way you're going to solve one part of the problem without the other. And if you look at Groot-Brundtland report, the first time we are talking about sustainable development, for example, the first time the term was used was in the Our Common Future, became a book, the report, but Groot-Brundtland, Swedish expert that was in charge of the report that started discussing we need a new development system. In the first text, it's very interesting. I invite you all to read that because it's very interesting how she describes already then, in the 80s, how important it was to think in a collaborative way because otherwise we would not move forward. So yes, I think we are in the time of collaboration.
This is great. This is great how you approach it, Nelmara. And how would you describe the private sector's role in facing these challenges and collaborating. So where do the companies fit in, and what challenges do they face in trying to solve these problems?
I think the reason I moved from the academy to work with companies is because I recognize the power they have, right? So this was one of the main reasons. I was fascinated. The more I got in touch with the universe of business. I'm a physicist by background, so I have nothing to do with business by background. Um, but the more I learned about them, the more I was fascinated by the power. And this power can be used in many ways. Of course, everyone is educated to use this power to make shareholders wealthier, right? And in by doing that, society and the planet would get benefits from that. What we have learned is that it's not always the truth, right? So you can really guarantee in certain conditions that shareholders have profits without protecting natural capital or um, making our social capital more resilient for present and future challenges. And this is where we are now. I think companies, they're going to have, part of them going to have to change because reality will impose itself. For example, they're going to have to adapt to climate change. And this means rethinking how the way they do business because of natural forces. We're going to force them. But also this means training new people, new skills, new ways of management, new systems. All that will be part of the transition. So some companies are going to have to go through that very rapidly because they're going to have to. Also, the companies that are operating in infrastructure, cities are going to have to be adapted, right? So rural areas where we have agribusiness also going to have to adapt. So some of them are going to have to, and others, they're going to maybe try to avoid the change, try to keep the game as it is because
So there is no avoiding anymore to
exactly, but you can only be a little bit late or later in the movement, but there is no way you're going to be there is no sector and no country that you're not going to have to move to the next chapter.
Well, you speak out of experience, right, Nomada, because you accompany a lot of Dutch companies as well as KPMG. You can also compare a little bit. You mentioned already the infrastructure. You already mentioned the agribusiness. I mean, these are already key businesses that we have among the Dutch. Where do you see the opportunities? Because we talk a lot about the challenges we have, but there are obviously also a lot of opportunities in Brazil. Where do you see these kind of opportunities in order to get to a better world?
Brazil has so national international companies operating in Brazil. They are operating in a context where we have many advantages to face the challenges. One of them is that our electricity production matrix is very different from other countries. We have lots of hydropower, for example, but we also have wind, and we have a capacity to still growing in renewables, right? We also have the capacity to, now with lots of innovation, we can also grow in the distributed way to produce energy. And this, we have biodiesel and we have ethanol being there for decades. It's not new for us. The opposite. Nobody knows them around the globe, but we have been, exactly that. Also with large automotive companies. So our cars use ethanol for a very long time, and we are very good in producing it. So this is a country where the energetic matrix is resilient, or can be very resilient. Of course, because of climate change, hydropower is something that we're going to have to be rethought, right? Or we have to change the way we thought about it. But still, it's a country with lots of solutions for energy on the energy side. And this is the basis for any economy, right? For any quality of life, is how well or how easy it is for a country to adapt, to create new ways of producing energy for electricity. And also the energy that we use for our cars, as I was saying, for logistics, is also we have many ways to do that. Now we are getting to electric cars, hydro, right? Now is lots of new things, and all that adds to a matrix that's already very interesting. It's not dependent on oil and gas only. The other good side about operating in Brazil for any company is that Latin America has 600 million hectares to be regenerated. This is a critical piece of the puzzle to stabilize climate. So we have to reduce emissions, and you have to make our ecosystems more resilient. And one way of doing this is to regenerate ecosystems. And if you're a company here in Brazil, you can be part of the game of regeneration. You can, get investors and many players offering resources for us to regenerate. Or if you are a company with big sites, you can also do that. If you are a company that has private protected areas, you can also get into this game. If you are a company with lots of suppliers that are related to production, they also can get into this game. And this is a big game, and this game is going to be extremely important in the next decade. So it's another very interesting factor.
It's the size indeed as well that is a big advantage, right, for
Yeah.
companies. But I think things are changing in Brazil as well, becoming a little bit more accessible in terms of laws and legislations. So I think this is also a little bit opening up for companies to invest here, right?
Yeah, I think regulations always come at the end of a process, right? Society discuss, the innovators innovate, nobody agrees, they disagree a lot, and there is a moment society is ready to regulate. It comes at the end of the line. But because of the speed of change needed now, regulations are also running. So I used to, when I go to Congress talking to compliance professionals, also KPMG, we have a very important part of our work is to support compliance processes in companies. And the compliance professional was a professional with a very planned way of, learning new things or changing the aspects they have to take into consideration. Now there is nothing like that anymore. So every 3 months they have to learn something new to comply with, or that they're going to have to get prepared to comply with in 1 year, 2 years. So it's getting really much faster. So regulations are changing. They are not ideal still for the transition we need. Companies can help also forcing the change in the right direction, particularly because companies invest in innovations. They invest in a certain direction to grow. And they need regulations to help them, right?
So we have regulations, we have companies learning to work together with natural areas and biodiversity. We have companies that have to work together with cleaner energy systems. And everybody is learning to do a new kind of business in this scenario. How do you think Brazil hosting the COP this year helps to teach everybody to go in this new way of doing business?
I think this COP is a special COP for many reasons. One is, of course, is in Brazil. Yes, we have a COP in Brazil. And it's in a very complicated region. It's in Belém, in
the heart
of
the
not the middle, but it's an important part of the Amazon. Also, if you travel in that region, you're going to see all the challenge such a region has, because you have a city, you have poverty, you have opportunities, you have resources everywhere, but you have also, they have been damaged also throughout the region. So it's a very interesting spot for this conversation to happen, to have people from so many countries there, just seeing it, right, real. I'm not going to talk about logistics of COP because it's
then we need probably a few more hours.
so not going to go there.
Let's focus on the important part.
Yeah, exactly. But there is another reason why this COP is so important. We have been observing in the last 5 years, I could say, a change in the center of power and discussions integrating countries that normally were kind of not really part of the final conversation, the solution, more and more becoming coming to the center of the conversation. So there was a kind of a sense that the game is changing. Who had the last word not necessarily has now in the previous COPs. Remembering that we have COPs for climate, but we have also COPs for biodiversity. We have the COP for desertification. We have lots of COPs right now. The oceans COP also. So in all these COPs, you could start seeing that the main powerful G20 voices were not enough to complete the puzzle. This COP, we have a big movement from the US out of many discussions. At least they're saying they're not going to participate. We're never going to know. We're only going to know in last minute. And we have countries like China really committed with the transition for a low carbon economy. And the reason we are seeing these movements is not only because they are, I think, very interested in avoiding climate change, but it's also because there is a geopolitical factor here. China is one of the countries that imports more oil on Earth. Among other things, they import a lot to keep that production so strong. If they can make a transition to renewables, imagine, this is wonderful, right? Imagine that you have an economy the size of China and you can run it on renewables. If you can do that, this is a big change in the global game. So we believe that China is going to come to this COP with more power or more interest because of the transition itself. But now this is reinforced by the fact that the US
getting them more space. It's giving them more space, indeed. I mean, so they will probably jump on that.
Exactly. And I don't think China has a problem with money. So I think I have been, because I was writing about that. So I have been researching about the reserves in dollars that China has. And we are talking about quadrillions of dollars. So this is not going to be the problem. Of course, this also bring to us challenges because they also going to, as all countries with power, they want to make the transition to go in a certain direction that maybe is not interesting for everybody, but is a big change in the game. There are going to be new money on the table. And I think this is the reason also I have big expectations, I was saying before when we were preparing for the podcast, to this COP, because I think there is a big change in the center of power. The importance of the countries that were like not really in the center going to become even higher. The conversation of regeneration is on the table. It's going to be more than ever before. And we have so much invested in innovation. We have, I follow these things. I have every day wonderful surprises. I try to post them in my Instagram, but it's a lot going on, really. And they are accessible. They are not expensive. They can be applied in different ways. So it's really something quite special too.
I see Karen here, an expert on sustainability, climate change, and especially also on the COP, who's been very optimistic about this COP in Berlin.
No. So don't take me wrong. All COPs they never answer to your expectations. Never, because our expectations is always higher than they can achieve.
This is a COP of action, they say. Do you really believe, Nelmara, that the action will come through this COP? I mean, because this is apparently the big difference compared to the other COPs, that it's not the time to talk, but it's really the time for action. Do you really see that this action is going to happen after the COP?
I think the first important thing is that we don't need more information. We have all the information we need. We have even more ways to get intelligent hypotheses out from the information we have. Because information you can use in many different ways, but now we have really many ways to analyze this and fast enough and use it for decision making. So this is not where the challenge is. The challenge is um, the transition will be very good for some and can be very bad for others. And the faster we face the fact that for the ones that we're not going to benefit have also to be supported, the quicker we can move forward.
Okay.
And I think now in this COP, we're going to have to take a decision not much about where to invest or how to change and which regulations we need. I think these experts that are negotiating know that. I think the conversation will be the ones that cannot benefit from a fast transition.
How
Well,
to bring them up to
we
speed.
deal
now.
with that, right? And they can be millions because we know many people are going to lose their houses, their businesses, the logistics. Health will change because we're going to have new diseases. This is the conversation that has to happen also together with the transition we need. So I don't think will be an easy COP, but is a COP that's much closer to real problems that climate change represents to all economists, right? And I think this is a very strong motivation.
It's a great
Probably.
momentum. I think it's a great momentum that we are having here, and especially also in Brazil. I think it's a great momentum for Brazil to showcase also a little bit what we have and what we're capable of doing. Nelmara, I think we could talk with you for many more hours.
Yeah. An extra 2 hours.
Exactly. But looking at the time, we have to wrap up here. Allow me to thank you for being with us in the studio today.
Oh, thank you.
And I think we would definitely need to talk again after the COP and see how we are meeting the expectations and how we're going to change the world for a better place altogether. But thank you for being with us today. Thank you as well for joining us here today at the Orange Talks at Dutchem. And if you want to have more information on the COP, then you better stay COP connected and stay tuned with Dutchem. See you soon at the next podcast. Ciao.